All right, we're ready to begin our math lesson for today. You are listening and ready to go. Please click on activities and be ready. You could just wait right here. We're going to start today with a quizzes to practice analyzing graphs, and then we will show our knowledge with our math task. So right now, everyone can be on this page, and then I can send you our math link to the quizzes. Everybody's on Seesaw waiting for the math quiz link. All right, we have now practiced on a quizzes. Remember, that was just a practice. It's good to be around graphs, to read the graphs and see if we can analyze them using the data. Go ahead and join me on our Seesaw task. Click on activities, assign to class folder, and blue math. I'm still hearing some other sounds, people making sounds with their body or mouths. Your job is to be listening at level 0. Our task today is called Analyzing Graphs. Please open that up. Today we're going to begin by listening to our success criteria. What is the skill that we're practicing today?
Our learning target for today is to solve how many more and how many less problems as we analyze a graph full of data. Today we will also be using vocabulary words as we practice asking our own questions about a graph.
Okay, so today we're going to answer how many more and how many less questions using data in a graph. We also are going to ask our own questions about a graph. Look at slide number 2, please. Slide number 2 has a video that shows you a model of what we're going to do today. I'm going to push play on the video. You are looking and listening to Zoom, watching the example that I will show you in the video.
This is an example of a picture graph or a pictograph. We're going to do this example together as we analyze the data and solve a problem about the graph. Our question says, how many more people like pizza and hot dogs than cheeseburgers? So as we look at our picture graph, I notice that this graph is all about favorite types of food. And most importantly, I notice the scale at the bottom tells me that each symbol is equivalent to 2 people. So I'm going to skip count by 2s as I count my symbols. Sometimes we can label our symbols to help us remember that each picture is equal to 2.
Gloria,
my question says, how many more people like pizza and hot dogs than, there's that comparison word, cheeseburgers? So first I need to find out how many people like pizza and hot dogs combined. So I find pizza on the graph and hot dogs. I can skip count by 2 to find the total. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. 12 people like pizza and hot dogs. Now we're going to compare it to cheeseburgers. How many people like cheeseburgers? 2, 4, 6. 6 people said cheeseburgers were their favorite food. So now we're going to compare. I can tell that 12 is greater than 6, but how many more? Notice our question asked how many more prefer pizza or hot dogs. So we can count on from 6 up to 12, or we could subtract 12 minus 6. we know that 6 more people prefer pizza and hot dogs compared to cheeseburgers. Today, third grade, you're also going to be looking at a graph and asking your own question. Remember, we're going to use math vocabulary as we ask questions about a graph. We're going to start with how many more, or how many less, or how many to ask a question. My question for this graph needs to start with those question words, and I need to think about the categories that I see. I'm going to ask, how many people like chicken and pizza? That is a question I could ask another friend about this graph. How many people like chicken or pizza? I used my question words and I used categories from the graph, and I can type it into the box. How many people like chicken and pizza? This is what you're going to practice today. You're going to use your evidence in the graph to answer the question, and you will be asked to think of your own question that you could ask a friend. Good luck.
On slide 2, we saw an example of what we're going to do today, including asking a question about a graph. Go to slide 3, please. On slide 3, you're going to use the same graph. In your breakout room, I want you to complete slide 3, solving by showing your work and answering the question. On slide number 3, our question says, how many more people like cheeseburgers and hot dogs than spaghetti? Notice our categories. Cheeseburgers and hot dogs are together compared to spaghetti. So first I can find cheeseburgers and hot dogs and combine them. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 people like cheeseburgers and hot dogs combined. Then I'm going to compare it to spaghetti. Find spaghetti next. 2 people like spaghetti. Our question says how many more and than. That means we can subtract to find the difference. 10 minus 2, you get a difference of 8. So how many more people? 8 more people. 8 more prefer cheeseburger and hot dogs. It does sound like that, yes. There's 2 ways to say it, right? Okay, click on slide number 4. Slide number 4 is your next job with your breakout room. You will read the question, use the graph and data, and answer the question by showing your work. Slide number 4 asks you a question. It says, how many people like spaghetti or pizza? When we see that or word, we can combine 2 categories, spaghetti or pizza. Here are the 2 categories on our picture graph. Remember, our scale is counting by 2s. So I can label each picture and skip count by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 10 people like spaghetti or pizza. That is our correct answer for slide number 4. Check your work and then move on to slide number 5. On slide number 5, we have a new question using our picture graph.
You're working quietly.
Our question says, how many less people voted for hot dogs than cheeseburgers? I noticed comparing language. How many less people voted for hot dogs than cheeseburgers? That comparison language means we're going to subtract our smaller number from the bigger number. I want you to do slide number 5 right now on your own. Go. You have now had time to look at slide number 5. Let's go over slide number 5 together. How many less and than means we're comparing. We can subtract to find the difference. How many voted for hot dogs? If I skip count by 2s, I see it is 4 people who voted for hot dogs. Cheeseburgers is our next category. If I skip count by 2s, I see that there are 6 people who voted for cheeseburger. Put the greater number first and subtract. 6 minus 4 gives us a difference of 2. 2 less people voted for hot dogs compared to cheeseburgers. I want you to go to slide number 6, and I want you to think of a question you could ask about this graph.
Your voice is off.
Think of a question you could ask about this picture graph. I want you to type your question into the blank. You have 1 minute to think of a question that you could ask about this graph. You have now had some time to think about a question you could ask about your graph. Who has a question they could share out about their graph on slide number 6? What could we ask about these categories that we see on the graph? Remember, our questions start with words like how many. Looking for a 3rd grader who can share out a question you can ask about the graph. Day, go ahead. Okay, Day thought of the question, how many people like pizza and chicken? Who thought of a different question you could ask about this graph? How many people like, what could you ask about this graph? Somebody different than Day. Ashley, go ahead.
How many people like pizza and hot dogs?
Okay, Ashley thought of how many people like pizza or hot dogs. Notice she's using our question words, how many, and she's using categories from the graph. Thank you. Alicia, you wanted to share. Yeah.
How many people is cheeseburger and spaghetti?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Try again.
How many people is cheeseburger and spaghetti?
Okay, thank you, Alicia, for sharing. Noticing that we're talking again about categories from the graph. After you ask your question, you need to answer your own question. Right now, I want you to write the answer to the question you asked. How many people? You need to go use your data to find your information. Take a minute to finish writing the answer to your question. All right, you've had some time to write your own question and answer your own question. It is time to talk about what your task is. We practiced picture graphs together. We started with the video and then we did some slides with the same graph. Your task today is to do all of the slides that are left. Your next graph is a bar graph. There is a video for you to watch where I will show you an example of how to read this graph. Then you will finish doing some questions with the same bar graph. Kellen, your voice is at level 0. Your voice is at level 0. Then on slide 11, you will write your own question and write the answer to your own question about this graph. So you have 5 slides with the bar graph. Then we switch to a line plot. On slide 12, there's a video that teaches you about the line plot. After you watch this video, you need to show your knowledge answering the questions about this graph. On slide 16, you will ask your own question about the line plot. Okay? Your job today is to start on slide number 7 and finish all of the slides during your work time.